river, not your river. But that was the nice thing about it, is that those people were bringing to my book what I've been bringing to other people's books for the last 50 years.
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
Lovely to be on the other side of the fence.
Well, it was lovely to be on this side of the fence reading it, got to say.
That's nice.
I think that we might be about to go live. What do you think, Karen?
Sure, I'm in your hands.
I think we may well be live. Oops.
Yes, we are.
There you go. Well, it's just pretty exciting. The good thing about technology is allows us to do this all over the place, and I'm hoping we've got some people joining us from all around Australia. Here in WA, I am on Whadjuk Noongar country, and together with Fremantle Press, myself, like to respectfully acknowledge the people, the Noongar Nation, and the traditional owners and custodians of the land which we work, and pay our respects both to their elders past, present and emerging. This evening here, it's getting close to evening. It's evening over in the eastern side of the country. So wherever you are, I'd like to introduce you to Karen Herbert. She spent her childhood in Geraldton on the midwest coast of Australia, attending local schools before moving to Perth to study at the Uni of Western Australia, where she attained a Bachelor of Commerce and first class honours. She also holds a Master of Science in Applied Psychology. Karen has worked in aged care, disability services, higher education, Indigenous land management, social housing and public sector, and is a graduate member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Busy person. She's a board member of the Interlife Group, board observer at Advocare, and president of the Fellowship of Australian Writers. Karen lives in Perth, Western Australia, with her husband Ross and the occasional fledgling. Karen, welcome to our conversation.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Jane, and thank you for having me here today. And my apologies to anybody who's watching. You might hear the noise of one of those fledglings coming home just in a minute.
Karen, now this is your first novel. So first of all, I'd just like to congratulate you. It's it is no small feat to to write a novel, let alone to have it published. So I have to congratulate you there. But tell us how you came to being an author.
Oh, well, I only started writing a few years ago, Jane. It was 2.5 years ago. My husband and I came home from a wonderful hiking trip in New Zealand. I went back to work. And at 5 o'clock that evening, my boss called me into his office and he told me that my position had been made redundant. And that was effective immediately. So I went home and had a bit of a sulk and a couple of glasses of wine. And the next morning, when my husband got up and got dressed to go to work, and I would normally have done the same, I got up and got dressed and came into my office right here. And I started writing. And I wrote until 5, stopped when he came home, did the same thing the day after that and the day after that, and kept doing that until I'd finished the first draft of a manuscript. And when that was done, I didn't have a job still, so I started another book. And that process gave me The River Mouth, and my second book, which is coming out through Fremantle Press this time next year. So it was a very fast process, which I didn't realise at the time because I didn't know very much about anything then.
Do you mean the writing process was fast? Or?
The writing process was fast and the path to publishing was fast. And when I reflect on that now, now that I have a much better understanding of how publishing and writing and editing works, I do realise that. But, I'm a little bit hesitant to tell that story because I understand now that so many writers take such an awful long time to write, and they write in the margins of their lives, and they take a long time to get accepted for publication. And I would have to say that I was very fortunate because I had the time to write. I didn't have a financial imperative to go back to work immediately. My children are grown. And I would hate for anybody, any aspiring writers, to compare their journey with what they hear about mine.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and whilst you've come to writing late, there must have been aspects of your prior life, your previous roles, and you've had a couple of degrees that I mentioned at the beginning. So there must have been aspects, though, that you think have helped you in this current career direction.
Oh, look, absolutely. And in every job that I've had, writing has been a thing. It's been non-fiction writing, but I've had to be literate. But I think probably more than that, I've lived, and I've had some great jobs through my career, things that have exposed me to all different types of people and to types of ways of life. And I think probably now I also have something to write about, whereas maybe 20, 30 years ago I didn't.
Did you have to go and do any courses at all in regards to the specifics of writing a novel, or did you have anything along those lines to help you in this quest?
I did. I went and had coffee with a friend of mine, and I told her my great big secret that I'd written 10,000 words. I was really enjoying it. And she said, right, we're going to get you off to a writing course. She said, Fremantle Arts Centre are wonderful. They do a course called The Nuts and Bolts of Writing a Novel, and you're going to go on that. And I thought, oh, I'm kind of just doing it to entertain myself at the moment, Katie. I'm not quite sure if I need that. But she sent me a text about 10 minutes after we left the cafe with a link to this course. And I thought, oh, okay, well, look, I'll have a look. If there's one starting soon, then it's meant to be, and I'll go and do that. And if not, then, well, I won't. And of course, there was one starting that Sunday. And the course was run...
As luck would have it.
The course was run by Marlish Glory, who was just wonderful. And she took us on 6 weeks of basically reminding us of what a novel is made of, that it's made of character and plot and setting and consideration of the tense that you use and whether you're writing in third person or first person and all the stuff we learned at high school. And I remember being utterly terrified the first day. We walked in and she talked us through what the first day would be, and she said, and you'll all get an opportunity to read from your writing. And I just looked at her and just thought,
oh my God.
No, just no. I don't want to do this thing.
Well, gosh, it sounds like though I know talking to authors about their process that, and the advice that they would give other authors, it was just write and write and write and keep writing and writing. So it sounds like you actually came to that anyway with your diligence, with 9 to 5 at the desk. It's probably a good time now. Maybe could you give us a little synopsis of what this fantastic book is about?
The River Mouth, my first book, my book baby. So in The River Mouth, 15-year-old Darren Davies is found face down in the Weymouth River with a gunshot wound to his chest. And his friends pull him out of the water, but they never see the shooter, and the shooter is never found. And then 10 years later, Sandra, his mother, receives a visit from the police, and they give her the sad news that her best friend has been found dead in the Pilbara at a remote campsite. And as happens with unexplained deaths, the coroner is involved and a sample is taken of her DNA. And as it turns out, her DNA is a match with the DNA that was scraped under Sandra's son's fingernails. So this leaves Sandra in a fairly difficult position. The investigation into her son's death is reopened, and Sandra starts looking back through her own life over the last 10 years. And she finds that, well, maybe there are things she didn't know about her best friend. And she discovers that there are also secrets in her community, but also that her son, Darren, had secrets as well.
Mm. It's set in a small town. It's a fictional town, though.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that setting.
I wanted to set it very much rooted in the community. When I wrote the first chapter of this book, which turned out to be the fourth chapter, and I started wondering about what had happened to the boys, it was apparent to me that whatever it was very, very deep in the community that they live in. And I wanted to bring out that community. I wanted to understand it and see it, to know who lived there, how they lived their lives, what their day-to-day looked like, what things they were important to them, who they interacted with. And I found that wasn't a terribly difficult thing to do. I guess because growing up in a small town, you can't put yourself in a suburb that is 2 kilometres wide and is surrounded by lots of people that look and feel and act and live like you do. People who are different to you are 2 streets away. There are enormous differences in wealth, in education, in family circumstances, in social circumstances. Some people are very old, some people are young families, some people have disabilities, some people don't have homes. And all of those people are around you in a small town and you see them every day. And I wanted to show that and explore that and understand how that impacted on the boys as they were growing up.
Yeah, I think you really did. It's like, I was drawn to my own growing up, which wasn't in a small town. It was in Adelaide, in a sort of towards the hills, but everybody knew each other. And, if you were at your friend's house, we would play cricket on the street, if you're at your friend's house at 5:30, that's where you had dinner. And, there might be 10 people for dinner or 2 people for dinner. And it was funny because my neighbours lived down the road where we used to be a lot, and the 2 mums could see each other from their windows and they would just wave. And it's like, yeah, we've got the kids, don't worry, I'm feeding them, and it's encapsulated in a small town like that, where, as you say, there are all walks of life. Everyone seemingly knows each other's business, but there's a lot of secrets in there as well. What is it, do you think, that is, because there's been a number of novels that have come into the market, crime novels particularly, they seem to be set in rural towns, and it amplifies the storylines and the secrets. What is it, do you think, that it is about? And I'm talking about, and I have to put your book in there with Chris Hammer's Scrublands and Jane Harper's The Dry. It reminded me of those books, and I hope it has every success that those do, and I think it will. But what is it about that small town that amplifies it, do you think?
Yeah, I think I've just got a little bit taller, by the way, after that comment.
You did actually. You were just sneaking up the top there. Yeah. No, look, seriously, all kudos.
Thank you.
I don't.
What is it? Well, a small town is a community that is removed from other communities. You have to travel to get to other communities. So I suppose that gives the relationships in the community an intensity, because they're all there together. They share a common setting, and often small towns have economies that are based on that setting. It might be the fishing, it might be the primary industry, it might be tourism. And there's an attachment that comes to that setting from those economies. And I think when you get people who are different in close contact with each other, then you're going to get some conflict too. You're going to get some bumping up. And I think it's natural that we would explore that bumping up in fiction and that conflict and what it might lead to. And of course, it doesn't always lead to anything in real life, but it's not interesting in fiction, is it, real life?
You mentioned then about some of the characters that can be portrayed in these stories. And, you know, the three boys in this, Darren, Tim and Colin, and obviously Darren is the young chap who we find out early on he has died 10 years prior. Tell us about those three boys. So they were great mates.
Yeah, I so enjoyed writing those chapters. I could see and I could hear, I could smell the teenage boys.
I had two brothers, so yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
And look, I don't have sons myself. I have 4 daughters. But my sister has 3 boys, and through their lives, I've had the joy of watching them interact with each other. They're like puppies, 3 boys, 3 brothers together. The rough play and the ribbing and the working out in those relationships of how to interact appropriately with people, understanding where the boundaries are, what you can push and what you can't push. And I so enjoyed bringing that to life with Darren and Colin and Tim.
And their relationships with their mothers and their fathers and any siblings, you know, it just, I have to say that I think Sandra's strength was my favorite part of, and her character, I think, is probably my favorite character. Just that strength and the, you know, obviously her son, she's lost her son and she's still grieving, and to have her best friend, the DNA, show up under her son's fingernails, the questions. You know, they basically, their boys have grown up together and they have co-parented each other's kids. And it just, that relationship, I mean, I loved Barbara as well. That bond between the 2 women, was that an easy thing to write?
Yeah, it was.
Where did you draw on that from?
You know, those 2 women, they're very familiar to me. They're me, they're my sisters, they're my colleagues, my friends, they're you. They're all of us of this generation where we were little kids in toweling shorts and boob tubes when we were 7 in the 70s. And we were told as girls that we could do anything, we could be anything, we could be mothers and wives and have wonderful careers. And we went out, Jane, and we did that. And the barriers that previous generations had, we didn't experience. There were still barriers there, and we found them and we kicked them down whenever we could. But we went out there and we grabbed all of that. But Sandra, like a lot of women my age, she's done all that and she's found it's made her really tired. And she's flat. And she has these long-standing bonds with these other women who have worked and parented and done all of this really intense stuff, often in a social services setting as well, where you're really putting out there in that caring and that emotion for other people. And now she wonders why where all the energy's gone. She wonders why it was so hard. But there are fundamental things there for her that she hangs on to, like her loyalty to Barbara that
Mm.
she doesn't let go of. And I see that mindset in a lot of women.
Mm. I think actually, because I used to nurse, and I think maybe that's why.
Really?
Yeah, years ago I was a nurse. So that's probably partly my being drawn to her, but also I just think that strength and she, despite the evidence that she's faced with, she doesn't want to believe that Barbara had anything to do with it.
No.
And I think also because the way that you've structured the novel with the alternating chapters, I love the way it unfolds, and they're quite sort of relatively short, sharp chapters where we hear from Sandra in the now as the investigation is reopened from her son being shot, and then back to primarily Colin is narrating the other chapters, and they count down very cleverly in the 22 days before Darren is shot, and then 21 days. So it is a book that you will be drawn to want to keep reading it till it's finished. And I could start it again, actually. It's one of those books, because I was also conscious, when you're reading a crime book and okay, this author is going to try and pull the wool over. There's going to be little hints throughout it, I'm sure, and I'm not going to miss them this time. And so as I'm reading it through, I'm picking up on things, and I can't say anything because I don't want to give it away, because I know everyone's going to want to go and read this book. But I was just trying to keep ahead of it. But I have to say, I love the structure of the book in that alternating chapters. But
Can I tell you a secret about that, Jane?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to know.
Okay, so
we won't tell anyone else. If anyone else is listening, don't tell anyone else.
So I'm a very credulous reader, and I'm a very credulous watcher of crime on telly. So just over there is my couch in front of the television, and Ross and I sit there every night and we watch Scandinavian crime thrillers. And I can never pick it. I really can never pick it. And, we get to the end and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, the butler did it. The butler did it, Ross. And he's going, no. Yeah, but I knew that in episode 2. How did you not pick that up?
He picks it up all the time, does he?
All the time. I don't know. He's a geologist. Maybe there's something in that. But with this book, I didn't know who did it.
Oh, really?
And I didn't know who did it for a really, really long time.
I love that.
Yeah. And so, and my characters would surprise me as I wrote, and I'd be having all this lovely time writing in a scene with all this lovely detail about the setting, and then that might be, say, chapter 5, and then I'd be in chapter 37 and I'd be running, I'd be going, oh my God, it's the dog from chapter 5. That's why the dog was there.
That explains a lot then, because I think there is a difference with a book. I mean, as many people know, that you can either plot a storyline or it unfolds organically to you as a writer. And I love a book that unfolds to me as a reader. And I find that books that have unfolded to the writer just have that. There's something about them that is different. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. That is why.
Don't tell anyone.
So cool. No, I won't tell anyone. And by the way, people, you can, if I happen to leave you any room, you could pop a question or two in the chat, and I will put them to Karen if I leave any space. But seeing we're talking about that writing process now, did you mean when you sat down after you decided, okay, that's it for me, I'm gonna be a writer and I'm gonna work here 9 till 5, did you mean to write crime, or did crime pick you to write it? Like, is your second novel a crime novel?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So did you specifically choose crime because you're a lover of Scandinavian crime series on TV and you wanted to try and put one past your husband Ross so that he couldn't guess it?
No. See, on the very few occasions through my life where I thought I might take my literacy and actually write something, I always thought I would be a literary writer. That's what I read when I was younger. And I thought I would write clever stuff, beautiful, clever stuff. And I still really love reading beautiful, clever stuff. But when I wrote chapter 4 of this book first, the scene with the boys at the river on the rope swing. And when I wrote that, I started to wonder about the boys and their future and what had happened to them. And I understood that it wasn't a good thing, that something bad happened, and that maybe their lives didn't turn out as well as they had hoped. And the setting was dark and ominous. And I understood that it would be a crime novel.
The era that you chose as well, while we're still talking about structure, was that something particular you chose, that time period, and why then?
I didn't know what the time period was for a while. It wasn't until I started imagining the children going to a video shop, their parents to choose a video to watch after swimming practice, or when they were having pizza at night in the games room. It wasn't until that happened that I started to really get a sense of what the time setting was for the book.
There was a point through the story when it happens, and I'm not giving it away because we know Darren is shot. But the people are there, they need to do something about it and get help. And it really struck me that the lad that runs off, he runs up to the roadway where the bridge is, and he has to flag down somebody who's going past. I think a truck goes past first, and then somebody else stops and picks him up and has to take him to somewhere to use a phone in a business. And it's like, that's right, because we didn't have mobile phones then, did we?
Yeah.
And it hammered at home the era. And is it more difficult to write true to an era that is a long time ago, do you think?
Not that long ago.
Well, it feels like it was that long ago. I don't know, like the last 18 months.
How old do you think I am?
Probably about as old as me.
No, of course it's not, Jane, because that's the decade when I was in my 20s, and I remember it quite well.
You did mention boob tubes before, but you didn't mention leg warmers, and I'm sure they would have been around as well.
Yeah, that was 80s, wasn't it? Oh no, that was 70s.
Yeah. A lot of good things came out of the 70s.
Oh, look at us.
So Australian crime fiction seems to be really going through a purple patch, probably over the last 5 or 6 years, and being recognised globally, along with Australian stories, and particularly over these last 18 months of COVID. Why is it, do you think, that Australian stories and Australian crime fiction is just hitting the straps now? Is there something going on in the world apart from COVID?
Well, I suppose I can't talk for the millions of other readers out there, but I know that when I read Australian crime fiction, I love the embeddedness of it in Australian society. Um, and it's not necessarily a bush noir thing. I love, is it Elliot Perlman's Maybe the Horse Will Talk?
We'll talk, yeah.
That was an urban setting, and that felt very Australian to me. It was very identifiable. You mentioned Jane Harper. That was, I could be really immersed in that. The small town setting of Kyle Perry's The Bluffs.
Oh, yeah, set in Tasmania,
I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the darkness of that and the grittiness of the small town, even before you got out into the bush. It's a setting that lends itself, I think, to supporting a crime story rather than just being a pretty backdrop. And I wonder if readers overseas are drawn to it, but for exact opposite reason, that it shows a picture of a landscape and a community that is maybe quite different to their own, but also has the essence there of things that they see in their own communities. So I would imagine that a small town in America would have a lot of the same touch points as a small town in the UK and a small town in Australia. So for the English speaking readers in those countries, in a book that is able to pick up on those universalities, for me using a big word, that would be quite compelling for some readers. What do you think?
I think you hit on it there, because particularly we're seeing with these crime novels, they're set in that rural area, and the beautiful landscape. I mean, some of the descriptions in here, just they do take your breath away. We know what that landscape is like, and the beauty of it is the contrast to the crime act that is happening in and around that time.
Yes.
And that place. And I think that, I think it's just the appealing, page turning material. So, I said to you at the beginning that the cover is so beautiful. It's not easy to pick up with my thing. And I look at it, and obviously Tyne Rivermouth, we have so many areas around Australia where the river opens out into the sea. It could be anywhere around this fantastic country. And so I think it translates, I can see readers enjoying it all over the country, because there will be a similarity to a place near them or the place that they've been to, where they will enjoy it for that reason, and the page turning ability of it. Tell me, did you have to do a lot of research for it?
Not really, no. The thing I needed to research the most was the story around the gun. So there is a gun mentioned at the start, and the gun does play a role through the book. And I've only ever shot a gun once, and that was an AK-47. So I didn't really know very much about guns.
Is that a big gun? I'm not even sure myself.
It's a big automatic gun that goes, that's that kind of thing. That's my impression of a gun. So I didn't know very much about guns. I didn't know very much about handguns at all. Of course, rifles and shotguns are around in farms and in small communities, especially through the 70s and the 80s, in small towns in Western Australia. So They had a presence, but I had to research how they were licensed and how they had to be stored and accounted for in the 90s when this was this book took place.
Mm-hmm. You said before 90s, that wasn't that long ago. That's like 30 odd years ago. So I mean, the world has changed so much since then. But
yeah.
Tell me, did you have in this newfound career of yours, did you have anyone specific to mentor you through this process at all?
When I finished my course at the Fremantle Arts Centre, Marlish Glory very kindly invited me to join her writing group. And I'm still with that group. And it's the same group of people for the last 2 years. And we meet monthly, we read to each other. I got over my fear of reading. We talked to each other about characterization, bounce ideas off each other, get help where we're stuck on plot issues. And that has been just so helpful, so enormously helpful. And not even so much in terms of me reading to somebody else and them telling me or giving me advice or helping me with stuff. It's as helpful to be listening to somebody else read their work and hear the rhythm of their language and what works and what doesn't work, and listen to the way they solve problems in writing their own stories. That for me is so instructive, watching how other people do it and how they make sense of it.
Tell me, you mentioned a couple of other novels there. What have you read of late that you have loved?
Oh, at the moment, I'm reading 10,000 Aftershocks by Michelle Tong. Gosh, her writing is just so beautiful. It just flows through so easily. And the story, which is the story of her experience before and after the earthquakes in Christchurch in 2010, is such it's a really compelling story. It draws you through, and she writes it in these tight little scenes that make you just keep wanting to turn that page over and get to the end of it.
Yeah, one of my staff, Geraldine, she read that and just she was surprised the hell out of her how it just totally gripped her, and it was a page turning. Yeah, she thought it was brilliant as well.
Yeah.
And do you have anything on your bedside table that you're about to start reading?
Because I'm not a serial monogamist with books. I tend to have a couple on the go at the same time. I have started Sally Scott's Fromage, which is the first.
I'm about to read that myself, actually.
It's the first in her Alex Grant series. It's about a woman who, I think she's a journalist. She's on holiday in Croatia. She runs into old friends and there's a murder. And there seems to be an awful lot of cheese involved. And I'm laughing out loud as I'm reading it. It's great fun.
Oh, good. Yes, I'm about to start that one. I did just read a book called Happy Hour, which is hilarious, about a woman who has 2 terriers called Whiskey and Soda, and she is a Franny's her name, and she has recently lost her husband, and she is an illustrator, a children's book illustrator, and she thinks she's at that stage of her life that she needs to just be a recluse and have her gin and tonics at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she has routine, and a single mum moves in next door with 2 kids, and it's a really lovely story. I laughed my head off, and yeah, I do I thoroughly recommend it if anyone needs a good laugh. So Sally's book, 2 really good ones.
Great.
Just checking if there's any questions out there from anyone. And my screen kept dropping out then. So when you started talking about the 10,000 aftershocks, I dropped out and I came back in. I'm like, oh, I know this book. While we're just checking, there's nothing pop in, but I did want to ask you, it is Love Your Bookshop Day on Saturday,
Yes.
the 9th of October, so a few days away, which is about I would say maybe the 7th or 8th celebration. It's an annual celebration. What do you think, how important are bookshops in the community, would you say?
Huge. You're asking somebody who's been a reader all her life. It was the most exciting thing to be able to go to the bookshop with my mother and be allowed to buy a book. And when I moved to Perth and started hanging out at the university, we had the university co-op bookshop. And I spent an awful lot of the money that I earned waitressing at the university co-op, buying books there. The Lane bookshop was
it's a great bookshop
for me when I was a student, and I was just beside myself when my eldest daughter got her first job in a bookshop at Collins and Cottesloe.
Oh, really?
She worked there for 5 years while she was in high school and then later at university. And it was very special the day that my book was launched, the day that we came to Beaufort Street Books. That morning, Caitlin came into the bookshop with her partner and her 6-week-old baby and the baby's granny. And we all celebrated the launch of the Rivermouth.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a lovely idea.
Been a big part of my life.
Yeah, well, they tend to be, back when your novel was written, I think a community would rally around a church or maybe a football club, that sort of thing. But I think now bookstores really are that central place of meeting other people in the community and obviously author events and that sort of thing. They are a space of rich learning. They're like a third space of learning outside of schools and universities. They do offer I'm biased, but they do offer a safe space.
Yes.
And, I think I have to say, I said before that I was a nurse before, and I've had many jobs, and probably like you came to writing, at your stage of your life. I don't think I would have and run it the same way if I had have done this 20 years ago. So I think having the life experience and having had the ability to now step back and devote myself to the community and to running the store, it's probably the best job I've had. And so I would urge everybody to get out and celebrate this Saturday with your local bookstores. It's obviously Christmas coming up, and I would urge people, with the problems that we've got with Australia Post, that if you have friends and family on other side of the country to where you live, it would be really good to ring their local bookstore and arrange for them to actually send your gifts for you. And any store in Australia would be more than happy to do that. I do have a comment that's just come up here from Annie. She said, love the book. Do you think you've finished writing about these characters, or do you think some of them might pop up again? Really good question, Annie.
Yeah, Annie, I think I have some unfinished business with the children. I did start last year to write a chapter that might be a short story with the children in the sand dunes north of town. And the sand dunes appear in one chapter in the book when the boys are up at the shack. And I think there's more. I think there's more to be explored up there. I don't know what it is, but I think it's something around the interaction between the kids and possibly other kids in town.
Sounds good. Are you able to, is it too early to tell us about the other book you've written that is coming out next year?
Oh, no, not at all. So the book that is coming out next year is called Castaways. It will be released in September 22. And Castaways is about a rather gormless university student named Josh, who steals 2 research mice from a university laboratory, as you do, on a drunken night out. And because Josh still lives at home with his mum, so he can't keep the mice there. So he hides them in the basement of a retirement village where he works. But research mice that might have been exposed to something don't mix well with immunocompromised older people. So he can't keep them there forever. But, the pressure's on because older people are inquisitive and watchful and they see him coming and going. And his manager's a bit suspicious. And of course, because this is a crime novel, there are other people coming and going from the basement. So Josh has to find his mice a home before they kill all the old people, or he gets in the way of the big burly blokes who are driving in and out of the basement in their white van.
And do you have, when's that one coming out? That's next year, did you say?
Next year.
That's exciting. And so does that mean you are working on anything else as well? So what is can you allude to anything, or what is that process like? Are you playing with ideas at the moment still, or what is it?
I am half a conversation away from completing the first draft of a manuscript. And because it's in first draft form, I still haven't quite worked out how to summarize it, I guess, into something that might be intelligible for people to listen to.
That's quite all right. And I don't want you to, I know from talking to writers, it's like you have to wait till you're ready to get it out. So
yeah, I can tell you about the main character though. So okay. The main character is a lady called Frances. Frances is in her early 30s. She's a public sector forensic accountant, and she spends her time, and she's very happy to spend her time, reconciling invoices and slapping the wrists of public servants who steal pencils. But then something happens. Her beloved team leader, Eric, disappears in the park next door to their office one night after Friday night drinks. And he's presumed kidnapped and murdered.
But really?
Then, a couple of years later, something comes up in one of Frances's inquiries, and she does what she does best. She searches through government archives, she creates spreadsheets, she tallies up numbers, and in her records and her ferreting, she looks for what has happened to Eric.
Sounds good. Sounds interesting. I will wait. And if everything goes to plan, is that something for 2023? Is that scary we talk about?
That's scary to talk about. Yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah, I'm still at the stage with this book where 1 minute I think, oh, this is really, really good. And then the next day I go, oh, this is rubbish. Just bin the whole thing and start something else. So maybe 2023, maybe 2033. I don't know.
I don't know that I'll still be here then. Look, I think it's probably a good time to wrap things up, Karen. I've thoroughly enjoyed not only reading this fantastic book, which everyone needs to get out and purchase. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. It's been lovely talking to you, Jane.
And apart from everybody dashing out and purchasing your book, you could do it on Love Your Bookshop Day this Saturday, where any bookstore around the country will be very, very happy to see you. We do have a question coming in maybe though. Can't see that, but I am also going to tell you about the next In Conversation that is with Alan Carter and Craig Kirshner. I love Alan's books. Craig is actually from Abby's Bookshop in Sydney, and this will be taking place on Wednesday, the 17th of November. It will be a live stream event like this, so people should follow the link to make sure that they don't miss out. I do have one last question here from someone. Are you up for answering it, Karen?
Sure.
Georgia says, it is interesting that both books feature old people. Did your experiences in aged care inform this character emphasis? That's a good question.
And the short answer is yes, it did. And the reason is in aged care, I found that the thing that I did that was most effective, the way I could best spend my time, was just sitting and listening to people and allowing people to be seen. I found that people in aged care and people in retirement villages, when we reach that stage of life, we feel we feel on the outer. We feel like we're no longer relevant. And my clients, more than anything else, they wanted me to know that they were important people, that they had raised children, they had chaired boards, they were accountants and lawyers and geologists, they ran small businesses, they ran marathons, they were captain of their cricket team. They wanted to be seen. And in my books so far, I have made those people seen.
It's lovely. And people should keep an eye out for Arthur. He's a lovely character in this book as well. He's really sweet. And as everything you say there, he's been places and he's done things, and he still has a heart of gold. So thank you, Karen. Just a reminder, everyone, Alan Carter In Conversation, Wednesday the 17th of November, to discuss his book, Crocodile Tears, the final installment in the Kato Kong series. I can't wait for it to hit the stands, honestly. So thank you once again, Karen. Thank you, Fremantle Press, and good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
See ya.